The galaxy had always believed Earth was a quiet place, a blue world spinning on the edge of a forgotten arm, filled with fragile creatures too sentimental to be a threat. For centuries, humanity had reached out to the stars not as conquerors, but as dreamers. They built alliances, shared medicine, and extended hands of peace to every species they met. But peace, as history had always shown, is a fragile illusion when met with arrogance. It began with the burning of the Europa colony. Over 30,000 civilians, scientists, children, families, vanished beneath orbital bombardment from a fleet belonging to the Vrelan Dominion. The Vrelan had accused humanity of resource theft, though the charges were false and fabricated to justify expansion. The attack was not war, it was a message. For 3 days, Earth's skies remained silent. News channels repeated the same footage: smoldering ice fields, floating debris, and the faint glow of broken domes beneath Jupiter's shadow. The galactic community waited for humanity's reaction, expecting pleas for negotiation. But humanity did not speak. Humanity listened, and then humanity began to change. In the halls of the Terran Assembly, representatives from every nation met in grim unity for the first time in centuries. The president spoke only once, his voice steady, void of fury, yet carrying something far colder. "We have been struck. Our kin have been slaughtered. We will answer not in anger, but in justice." The old Earth flags were lowered, replaced by a single banner, a black field with a white circle at its heart, representing both the unity and the endless resolve of humankind. Production lines that had lain dormant for decades reawakened. Orbital docks over Mars glowed with ceaseless fire as the old war industries returned to life. The first ship launched was named Retribution. It was not the largest nor the most beautiful, but its hull bore a phrase etched in 10,000 languages of Earth: "For the fallen." Its engines roared like thunder, echoing through the void as if Earth itself exhaled a promise. The Vrelan sent envoys urging for talks, claiming misunderstanding. Their words fell upon cold ears. The Terran Assembly refused them entry. The galaxy called humanity heartless, but they did not understand. It was not heartlessness, it was focus. Humanity had tried compassion for centuries. Now they turned to something older, something elemental. On the 21st day after the massacre, the first Terran fleet crossed the edge of Sol, composed of 1,000 ships, each carrying the mark of the lost colonies. They entered hyperspace with absolute silence. Every soldier aboard knew what they were leaving behind, and none expected to return. When they emerged near Vrelan Prime, the Dominion's sensors screamed with alarm. The humans gave no demand, no ultimatum. The fleet's signal carried only coordinates of Europa, followed by 3 words: "We remember everything." The battle that followed was not a battle. It was dissection. Human ships moved like hunters in deep water, their tactics unpredictable, their movements terrifyingly calm. Artificial intelligence networks coordinated millions of decisions every second. Rail cannons fired from distances the Vrelan could not even detect. Every station, every shipyard, every fortress that had taken part in the massacre was erased with surgical precision. When Vrelan Prime's fleet attempted surrender, the humans transmitted a single reply: Europa did not surrender. For 3 hours, the night sky over Vrelan burned white. When the light faded, their capital was gone. Not conquered, erased. The other empires watched in frozen silence. The Kalari consulate declared neutrality. The Draven Syndicate closed its borders. Even the ancient Eldari, who had once considered humanity a young and harmless race, withdrew their fleets from Terran space. No one wished to be next. And yet what truly terrified the galaxy was not the destruction. It was the aftermath. Humanity did not boast. They did not parade their victory. The Terran fleet returned home in quiet formation. Every ship passed over the ruins of Europa, projecting a silent memorial into space, a stream of light shaped like human hands reaching toward the stars. For a week, those lights remained before fading into darkness. Afterward, the Terran Assembly issued a single decree to the galaxy: "We are not conquerors, but if touched again, we will become your reckoning." Then they sealed their borders. For a century, no one dared approach. The outer colonies of other species spoke in whispers about the Iron Earth, a world that smiled once but now watched the stars like a sentinel carved from ice. Even trade routes bent around Terran territory, as if afraid to disturb whatever slept within. But inside those borders, humanity did not rest. They built, studied, and learned. Their technologies leapt centuries ahead in decades. They crafted ships that moved without light, weapons that struck without heat, and minds that blended human intuition with machine logic. They became something neither alien nor machine, but a perfect balance of both. A civilization that had learned that survival was not in kindness alone, but in the memory of loss. Still, they never forgot the faces of those lost on Europa. Every city on Earth bore their names in stone, and every year, on the day of the massacre, the entire planet fell silent. No broadcasts, no noise, only the sound of wind across the oceans. Generations passed. Children grew up hearing stories not of vengeance, but of endurance. They were taught that humanity's strength was not in destruction, but in its refusal to be broken. The lesson was etched into every heart. Peace is sacred, but only when it is respected. One day, long after the fires had faded, a small exploratory vessel from another species approached Earth. It did not come as a conqueror, but as a seeker of understanding. Its captain transmitted a message of peace and sorrow for the past. For a long time, there was no response. Then, a single Terran ship appeared in orbit, its hull dark and unmarked. From it came a voice, calm, emotionless, yet somehow filled with the weight of humanity's history. If you come with peace, you are welcome. But remember this, peace is not granted. It is earned. The alien captain bowed his head and transmitted his gratitude, and for the first time in generations, Earth's gates opened again. Over the following decades, humanity began to rejoin the stars, not as naive explorers, but as a force tempered by fire. They became the mediators of galactic law, the silent arbiters who ensured no empire dared repeat the sins of the past. Where once they had been ignored, now their word carried the weight of justice. Stories spread across the galaxy, of Terran judges who could bring entire fleets to heel with a single transmission, of human diplomats whose calm gaze could silence the proudest warlords. And behind them always stood the shadow of the Terran fleet, silent, waiting, reminding all who would test them what happened after Europa. Some species called humanity cruel. Others called them protectors. But all agreed on one truth. Earth no longer smiled like before. Its kindness had become a weapon, sharp, disciplined, and used only when no other path remained. Even centuries later, when new generations looked upon the night sky, they remembered the words spoken by that first president, the promise that had defined humanity's path ever since. We do not seek war, but if you bring it to our door, know this, when Earth rises, it rises cold, relentless, and unforgiving. And so the legend endured, for in the heart of every Terran child, in the stories whispered through schools and sung in halls beneath the stars, there remained a quiet vow that never again would humanity suffer in silence. Never again would they plead for mercy to those who had none. The galaxy had awakened a sleeping world, and in doing so, had given birth to something far greater than fear. It had awakened unity. It had forged a civilization that had known both the beauty of peace and the abyss of grief, and had learned to wield both with equal mastery. Thus, when others spoke of Earth, they spoke not of a planet but of a promise written in the ashes of Europa and carried by every ship that bore the Terran crest. A promise that whispered through the void, we remember. We endure, we rise,